The year 2008.
Fuck yeah.
A lot was happening in the comic book world, especially in films. Some of the biggest comic book movies ever made came out in 2008. I'm talking The Dark Knight, talking Iron Man. These movies set up a precedent for what comic book movies could be going forward. And my movie also came out in 2008, and it is the lowest gaining flop from Marvel that has ever existed. Today I'm talking about one of my favorite dumb movies of all time, Punisher Warzone. Came out in 2008. Stars Ray Stevenson as the Punisher himself, Mr. Frank Castle. Has other characters in it, like Wayne Knight, yes, from Seinfeld, plays Micro, his partner. And there's some other guys. Dominic West plays Billy the Butte, a.k.a. Jigsaw the Villain. I'm a huge fan of the Punisher. I like anti-heroes, and the Punisher is like the anti-hero. You know, he's basically, if you don't know the Punisher's deal, he's basically, he was an ex-Marine, and he and his family were in the Central Park, and they witness a mob execution, and so they kill his entire family. And he survives and dons the Punisher name, and basically he's out to kill every crime family in New York. That's the Punisher's whole thing. He's not a superhero. He is just a guy that wants to kill everybody that is a fuckhead. And somehow that character is one of my favorite comic book characters, because he's actually a pretty deep and complex character, dealing with a lot of PTSD and other issues like that. And he's had a rough history when it's come to cinematic debuts. This is actually the third attempt to bring him to the big screen. There are two other ones before this. There was I think there was a movie in I think it's like 89 or something, or I can't remember what year it is. I actually have it on DVD, but it stars Dolph Lundgren as Punisher, and it's awful. And then there was one in 2004, which I think people are more familiar with. And this is the third time they tried to reboot the Punisher for the big screen. And this actually started life as a sequel to that 2004 movie before just becoming its own movie. This movie is bad, very bad, but it's one of those few times that a movie is so bad it's actually fucking awesome. Because when making this movie, the director Lexi Alexander, the only thing she's directed of note besides this is Green Street Hooligans. She was butting heads with Lionsgate, who was funding the film. And her vision for the movie was to basically, at first she actually rejected the film, and then she actually read a few of the Punisher comics at the time, and then she came back and agreed to do it. And her vision was to make an action movie akin to like those big, like 80s action films, violent, stupid, over the top films. And I think she succeeded. There was, like I said, she did butt heads with Lionsgate during the production. Lionsgate at one point even thought about taking this down to a PG-13, which would have been really dumb on their part. But no, they kept the hard R, and this is a very violent, very stupid movie. So the Punisher Warzone takes place 4 years into the Punisher's career of killing everybody that is even slightly a fucking criminal in New York. And it starts with him hitting a mafia meeting. This like big, crime family is like having this dinner, and then he just all the lights cut out, and then he shows up with like this flare, and then he starts killing everybody at this dinner table in very stupid ways. Like he cuts this guy's head off, and then he starts snapping people's necks with like his hands and feet like on the table, and then he starts fighting like these guys, and then like one guy goes to like throw a chair at him, and he kicks the chair back, and the leg of the chair goes through the guy's face, and then he like hangs from the chandelier and starts like spinning for some reason and shooting people, and it's very over the top and stupid, but it sets the tone for the rest of the film, because the rest of the film is violent and stupid. So he kills off this entire crime family. The only person that wasn't in the room is the villain of the movie, Billy the Butte. He automatically becomes head of the crime family because he's the only survivor now. And Shortly after, Frank is coming for Billy the Beaut at a it's like a glass recycling plant that he uses, to do his crime shit out of. And Frank ends up throwing Billy into a vat of like glass and turning it on and just shredding him all to pieces. And while he's also in the building taking out other criminals, he accidentally shoots an FBI agent that's there undercover. And that's really where the story picks up. Billy survives, and he has his face reconstructed and like put together with like horsehide and stuff, and he becomes a villain called Jigsaw, which is a very funny moment in the movie. He's like his like plastic surgeon takes off his like wrapping, and then he's like horrified, because like his name was Billy the Beaut, so he was like all about his looks. So he's like horrified to see what like he's become. And then he's like, guys, leave me alone for my doctor. Like I need to talk to my doctor for a second. So his goons leave, and he kills the doctor. And then there's just a scene of him looking out of like a window at like a fucking advertisement in Times Square that shows like no joke, shows a jigsaw puzzle coming together to like advertise the Statue of Liberty. And then, like, a few scenes later, they're, like, driving, and then, they're, like, making plans. Like, okay, what are we gonna do about the Punisher? And he's like, Billy, what are we gonna do? He's like, my name, don't call me Billy. From now on, call me Jigsaw. And I'm like, he literally just saw a Jigsaw advertisement, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna be called that. Like, there's no real... it's such a dumb reason to, like, make your villain name, but I was like, hey, sure, I mean, that's probably how I'd do it. The Punisher is dealing with the fact that he accidentally killed one of the good guys, the undercover FBI agent. He's racked with guilt for that, and he is like, he leaves the wife a widow, and she has a daughter. So he tries to like take the money to make up for it, and they reject his money and they tell him to leave. And he's trying his best. Wayne Knight plays Micro, who's the guy that actually supplies the Punisher with all of his weapons in the comics. And he also has this other guy working for him that like used to be a gangbanger, but now he's gone straight. But he uses him to like go underground to get weapons and like info and stuff. And those are the other two characters that are really in the movie. And then there's like a C plot with these officers, or this one cop that's like been tracing him for like the past 4 years, and then an FBI agent that has joined the case after Frank killed the other FBI agent, and they're both out to like catch the Punisher. So that's kind of like three things swirling around at once in the plot of the movie. From there, it's just an action movie, and it culminates with the kind of scenario you think, where Jigsaw kind of gets like all the gangs in New York to come together to kill the Punisher. And there's this big standoff. He captures like the wife and the girl. He captures Micro, and like Frank has to make a decision at the end, like who is he going to save? And there's just some really dumb action throughout it, and it's fucking awesome. There's a scene where Jigsaw goes to the wife's house to try to find some money that the FBI agent was hiding from him. Like he said he was laundering it, but really he was taking it for evidence. So they go to her house, and Frank shows up, and there's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and you can find it on YouTube. And I don't know how they got away with this. There's a scene where he opens the back door, and one of the Jigsaw's goons is like watching the back door, and Frank literally punches him through his face, like into his face. And it is so stupid. And it's like a split-second scene, and I have watched that scene a million times, trying to rack my brain around how they got away with that. Because there's no possible way he could punch somebody through the face, but he fucking did, and it's awesome. There's also another, and there's also another villain, Billy's brother, Looney Bin Jim. They save him from an insane asylum as part of his plan to take down the Punisher. And there's some really cheesy dialogue with them. There's some great dialogue in this movie. When they save Looney Bin Jim from the insane asylum, at first you see him getting he's like chained up, and there's this like really fat nurse that's about to feed him some applesauce, and then he eats the applesauce in front of him. and you take it that like that happens every day, and then Jigsaw shows up and frees him, and then the Looney Bin Jim is like. He like looks at the fat nurse and he's like, "I'm gonna get my applesauce back." And he starts like killing the nurse and like biting him and shit. And then there's also a scene later on where the gangbanger that like went straight is like dying, and he's like, "Frank, I'll see you in hell." And Frank's like, "If I see you anywhere near hell, I'll kick your ass." This movie had a $35 million budget and it made $10 million, and it's the Marvel's biggest flop. But my God, this movie's fucking awesome, and I stand by that. Watch it if you love action movies. It's a great time. Like even critics were kind of split because some were like, "This is really stupid," and some were like, "This is like fun, like a really fun movie." Not a good interpretation of the character, the Punisher. If you want like a better version of that, watch that like Netflix series they did. That had 2 seasons and like actually did a good job of bringing the comic book character to life. But if you want a fun action movie, here you go.
What is accurate, or what makes the Punisher the Punisher? Like, what is his like? I don't know what makes him the kind of character he is, because I'm not exposed to the series at all. I've never really dabbled in it.
Well, the Punisher's thing is all about like personal justice, and he's not the good guy in the story, and he knows that. Like, which I feel like is people get confused on that, like in real life. Like, there's I remember a few years ago there was like a I forgot which state it was, but some like police force in some state were like putting Punisher logos on their vehicles, and one of the creators from the Punisher comics came out and said, like, guys, like the Punisher isn't the person you should be glorifying, and even in the comics he said that before. He's said like, "Oh, if you want a hero, look at Captain America, not me," and that's kind of his whole thing. I think the Punisher is kind of like the realistic expectation of like, like you look at Batman and it's like, oh, his family was killed and he protects the city. It's like the Punisher, his family was killed and he just wants revenge. Like that's his whole thing. Again, it's like personal justice. Like, and the character's more complex than just being an action movie character. Again, he's racked with PTSD. That's a big part of that like Netflix series. That Netflix series is really interesting because it was like one of the first pieces of like television that I've seen where they actually like deep dive into like the fact that like military vets are kind of treated like shit in our country, and like they don't really have support, and and it's I don't know, it's hard to like put into words the character of the Punisher, but he is a dark, brooding character. He is an anti-hero and he does kill people, but there's a lot more to him. This movie tries to a little bit. Like, he has a connection with the daughter of the FBI agent he killed, and it's obvious that like he misses his children whenever he like interacts with the child, because he's like a immediately like becomes like a softer character than he really is. I don't know. He's just interesting, I think, and he's my favorite Marvel character. It's just, again, if you're looking for on-screen representation, the 3 movies they've done do not do a great job doing that. And I think it's shifted like public view of like what this character actually is. But hey, I got a good action movie out of it, so I can't complain.
I only know, the only thing I know from the Punisher is that in 2004 when Kevin Nash is the big Russian guy in the red stripes.
Yeah, that's the Thomas James movie. Yeah, this was started out as a sequel, but this is like so far removed from that when it got finished that like they even, because like Thomas James even like he dropped out of doing a sequel, and then they brought in Ray Stevenson, who might I say does a fantastic job in this movie. He's pretty good. Honestly, every actor in this movie works with what they were handed. They did the best they probably possibly could.
Okay.
And There's like some really good line deliveries, and they're like like chewing it like the villains are like chewing at the scenery. Like it's pretty good. It's just the fact that like what they were handed wasn't a good movie.
This may be a lot to ask, but does Wayne Knight get a lot of screen time?
He gets some.
Because he's awesome.
Not a lot. Oh yeah, I love him in this movie, but yeah, he doesn't get a ton of a screen time, but you do get a few. I'd say a good like 4 or 5 scenes with him.
And does he just play Newman?
Kinda. Honestly, he just kind of looks like Newman, but like he sells guns to Frank now.
Because he's in Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, yeah.
And it's just Newman.
Yeah.
He's
yeah. He kind of is just Newman.
Yeah,
like,
just being Newman is phenomenal. It needs to be in everything, quite frankly.
Yeah, and it works because like Micro's supposed to be like a loser type character who's like who's able to like hack things and get guns for Frank and stuff. So like I think he fits the role pretty well. They never play it up as a joke though. Fat nerd,
So this came out the same year as Iron Man, you said?
And The Dark Knight.
Well, the Iron Man one, do you think at the time they were prepping this to be part of the Marvel? Was there any potential connection to the cinematic universe?
Actually, they're not really, because this is by Lionsgate, and this is still whenever the film rights for all the Marvel stuff was split up.
Okay, gotcha.
The MCU had Iron Man is the first movie, so it's like it had just started.
Mm-hmm.
But there is some like weird connections. The only reason Ray Stevenson got the job for this was because Kevin Feige, the MCU guy, actually recommended him to Lexi Alexander. So he did have some hand in this, like coming about. And this is actually part of the Marvel Knight series, which only had one other film, and that was that second Ghost Rider movie. Whatever it was, Ghost Rider Vengeance or whatever the fuck it was, and that's never come back. The Marvel Knights, I don't think. But it was meant to be like a darker side of the Marvel movies,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, as it stands, this is the best you're getting for a Punisher movie.
This is the best one
of the films. Yeah.
You said the TV show does a little better with the character.
Yeah, the TV show's great. Like that is actually like a good interpretation of the character.
Okay.
And they're supposed to bring him back soon. I know he's showing up in that new Daredevil season they're doing for like Disney Plus, which I mean is cool. And then they've talked about putting him in a movie, so we might actually get it like a comic book accurate version of the character for films soon. But as it stands, this is the best you're getting because the Dolph Lundgren one is just a 80s action movie. He doesn't even have like the skull logo on his chest in that movie. He's just an action guy. And it's like the only iconography he has is like one of his knives have like a skull logo on them, and it's like, well. And then the Thomas Jane movie is good, but like for a Punisher movie, he doesn't actually like use a lot of guns or anything. Like he uses like other form. Like there is some fun stuff in that one too. Like there's a really fun scene where he's torturing a dude, and he's like telling him he's about to put a torch to his back that's like so hot it'll feel cold or something, And the guy's like terrified, and he takes a popsicle and like puts it on his back, and the guy's screaming. Like it's like that's fun, and there's fun stuff in that movie, but also it's like it's a weak interpretation, and also he's in Florida for some reason, which
you're retired.
Yeah, I'm like, why is the Punisher in Florida? Because like he's a Marvel character, and they're all in fucking New York. So this is the one that like actually tried to be comic book accurate to some extent.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a fun watch. It is very violent. It has a lot of very 2008 music. If you want to hear some fucking Slipknot and some Rise Against, it's in here. It's dumb, and I think it knows that it's dumb.
Okay. Cool.
That's all I got.